I'm now really pleased to hand over to Nayan Gowda and Maria Jose Granier, who are going to talk to us about the roller coaster ride that is Jardín Oculto. So we're now moving to Bolivia, and I'm really delighted that Maria Jose is going to be able to join us today. Just while we're waiting for them to join, I'll give you a little bit of background. So Maria Jose is fourth generation winemaking family. Hello, Maria Jose.
Hi, how are you?
Saying how wonderful you are. Hi, Nayan. So Maria Jose is the fourth generation of her family in the beverages industry, and I gather you have wine and Singani in your blood. She says that she truly understood her calling. You said you really understood your calling, Maria Jose, when you came across Bolivia's oldest vines in 2014, that you immediately fell in love with Los Arbolitos, the arboreal vines that grow up trees, and they inspired you to found Jardín Oculto, a winery dedicated to preserving this viticulture. And you then found and worked with Nayan Gowda, well, can I call you a flying winemaker, Nayan?
Sure. I don't fly much anymore, thankfully, but yes.
Who is of course English, and who, if you follow him on Twitter, you will see the amazing, beautiful posts and photos that he publishes from his work at Jardín Oculto. So, Nayan, I'm so pleased you're able to come back. You joined us for a quick sort of almost teaser on our very first Old Vine conference, when you were really first starting to get going with these incredible old vineyards. And you had a lot of, well, I mean, it was kind of slightly, but not a wing and a prayer, but, you know, you knew you wanted to do it. But actually, I think it's fair to say that it's, in terms of the wines and the reception for the wines and the way the project has developed, it's been enormously successful. And so we wanted to invite you to come back so you could tell us more about this, and I think inspire other projects that may look like it's a really esoteric old vine angle, but actually, if you make something beautiful, you will be rewarded. So I'm actually going to hand over to you and Maria Jose, so you can tell your story, give us your update. And then I would just remind the guests, please do send in your questions on the Q&A, and we will then put those to Nayan and Maria Jose at the end of their presentation. So over to you, Maria Jose and Nayan.
Right. I'm actually not going to be doing a huge amount of talking in this session, because I'm basically the one that always seems to hog the limelight, and it really should be Maria Jose that talks about Jardín Oculto, because she is our founder. I mean, without her, Jardín Oculto wouldn't exist. But I'm just going to give you a quick bit of background, because I know there'll be certain people amongst the attendees who are not haven't seen the pictures maybe, and are not quite aware of what Jardín Oculto is. Sarah's already said that Maria Jose was introduced to the vines in 2014. It was 2019 when Jardín Oculto was sort of officially launched. That was the first vintage, and 2020 is when I came on board. In 2019 and 2020, we were working with one single finca, one single vineyard. And over the course of the recent years, we have expanded both in terms of volume of production, but also with the number of vineyards that we work with. So we are now, as of this year, we're working with 4 different vineyards, and which is absolutely fascinating for us, because one of the things that we are seeing is there's a consistent difference in terroir. And we are seeing similar characteristics amongst the grape varieties from each of the individual vineyards every year. I'm just going to show you a couple of images, which I we'll try and fire up. Oh no, hang on. I need to share screen first. 1 second. Sorry, I'm not very good at this. Share screen. Yes. Okay. Excuse me. Slideshow. Right. Okay. So hopefully you can see that on your screens. Yes. Okay. Just to give you context, Bolivia, South America. It's a landlocked country. It's bordered by the Andes on the western side. We have our winery. Let's move that down. We are in the south of the country in an area, in a city called Tarija, and our vines are about 70 kilometers, 70 or 80 kilometers as the crow flies west in the Altiplano. It's not even 70 kilometers. It's 50 kilometers of the crow flies, about 70 kilometers in the car. It takes about 2.5 hours to drive there, just because we have to go over mountains that are 3,400 meters high and very, very windy roads. The Cinti Valley itself is where the vines are based, which is this long valley here. It's about 70 kilometers long. The grape growing there dates back to sometime in the 1600s. But we've managed to work out that the vineyards that we work with date back somewhere in the region of 200 years. There's not much in the way of written evidence, but we do have photographic evidence from the early 1900s showing some of these vineyards, and they are very, very old looking at that point. So when these vineyards were planted, they were planted in a very traditional method of using native trees as support. We'll come back to that one. So there's two varieties of trees that are mainly used. There's Moye and Chañar, both which are native to the Andean region. Moye is probably better known as the Peruvian pink peppercorn, which is what you have in your fancy pepper grinders all around the world. And basically, as the trees grew, the vines grew, and so now we have basically literal forests, which are our vineyards that we have to work with. Some of these vines go up to about 10 meters tall, which makes everything challenging. So nothing can be mechanized. Everything has to be done by hand, from pruning, spraying, harvesting. This is the San Roque vineyard where everything started. As you can see, it doesn't look like a vineyard. Right. So, yeah, as I said, they are basically symbiotic plants, symbiotic structures. They, you can almost, you'll walk through and you cannot tell which is the vine and which is the tree. Right. Okay, let's stop there. I think I'm going to hand over to Maria Jose at this point, if that's okay. And she'll be able to tell you more about the vineyards that we're working with, and the future as well. What we have planned, what we are hoping for. So, please, Maria Jose, take it away.
Thank you, Nayan. So, hi everyone. I just wanted to add to what Nayan was saying, that our mission is to preserve arboreal viticulture and the Criolla Prephyloxera varieties in Bolivia. As Nayan was saying before, in 2020, when we started working with San Roque, which is, he showed you how it looked like. And in 2021, we added 3 other vineyards. They are called Mollepampa, sorry, 2 other vineyards, Mollepampa and Los Membrillos. And these vineyards are walking 15 minutes away from San Roque. They are on the other side of the river. However, and Nayan is showing the images right now of where San Roque and Mollepampa are. And so if the river is low, or if you walk, there's a small walking bridge, you can make it in 15 minutes. But if you drive there, it's gonna take you about an hour because it's a very remote place. So going back to what we were discussing before is we're basically on a Galapagos island. This is a very remote place where the only life that exists here is because there's a river that runs along the canyon that creates the Cinti Valley, and so some of the differences that we can see in San Roque and Mollepampa, Los Membrillos, and now in 2023 we've added also a third vineyard is called Lumen. And some of the differences that we have is first of all the proximity with the canyon that San Roque has. So we get a lot more heat, but we also get morning sunshine, whereas Mollepampa, Los Membrillos, and Lumen will get sun afternoon, and also the heat in the morning from the reflection of the sunshine into the canyon. So very different weathers, despite the fact that they're pretty much next to each other, just separated by the river. And so the other difference that we have is in each place is that, for example, Mollepampa, as Nayan was saying, we have pink peppercorn trees in the vineyards, and Mollepampa is called after the pink peppercorn trees because it's the vineyard that has more pink peppercorns, and so we've noticed that the wines already smell like pink peppercorn. And one of the other vineyards we renamed Los Membrillos because they have a lot of queens in the vineyards, and so it's crazy because when you enter the vineyard you smell queens and you pretty much see queens everywhere around, but you don't really see the vineyards until you look up and realize that there are vines there. And so Nayan described also what the vineyards are like. They're very high, they're arboreal, which means that they grow around trees, but also we have other varieties of plants growing in those gardens because they're not really only vineyards. We also have apple trees, quince trees, fig trees, I don't know, many other trees, and also animals everywhere in the vineyard. So that's quite beautiful to see and quite special too. And that generates a very nice environment for the vineyards to survive. The last vineyard we started working with belongs to an 87-year-old woman, and she acquired the vineyard 50 years ago. And she says that so her trees are not as old as the ones in San Roque, but they're still pretty old because when she acquired the vineyard 50 years ago, she already had all vines growing around trees, and that's quite amazing. Unfortunately, we're not like in Argentina where we have a date for every plant that has been planted, and so it's basically tradition that tells us if the vine is old or not, and we need the elder people to let us know when the vines were old. And so another new thing for Jardín Oculto is that we recently acquired the San Roque vineyard, and which is the first vineyard we worked with and the one I fell in love with. And that makes us very happy, although there's a lot of work to do. We've been working with this vineyard since 2019, and we're still learning about them because there's a lot of things that people do by tradition, but not really by science. So we still are identifying which things are necessarily to do because it's good for the plant, and which is good and which is not really doesn't really make an impact on the growing of the plant. And so one of the things we started doing with when we acquired the vineyard is working on a vineyard survey, because vineyards are not planted like all the vineyards we know around the world, where there's an order and we have a section for this variety or the other, but here is total craziness. And so we have Muscat next to Negra Criolla, next to a variety we still don't know what it is. And so we want to learn about what varieties we have, but of course we're a very small team, and we don't have the time or the resources really to do it. So we're looking into how to do it. And also we are trying to identify more local varieties that we've noticed that we have in the vineyard, but also in the Cinti Valley, and that we know that are autochthonous, but we don't really have the DNA tests. So we're working into that, and we have partnered with a university in Chile that will be helping us with that the next year. And so another thing we've done is that we've gotten involved with the slow wine movement. I don't know if many of you know about it, but we're very happy to be part of this movement, because it's a movement that believes that wine as an agricultural product should not only be good, clean, and fair, not only for as wine, but and for consumers, but also for land and the environment. So we're very proud to be part of this movement, and thanks to this movement and to the all vine movement, we're getting a lot of awareness around everywhere outside Bolivia, and we're happy and thankful for that. And I don't know, Nayan, if you want to add something to what I just all the things that I mumbled.
You didn't mumble at all there. I mean, one of the things that Maria Jose was saying is that the vineyards are still quite an unknown for us. We work with 3 core grape varieties that we're fairly confident we know that we can identify those, which are Negra Criolla, which is essentially Pais. It's a different biotype of Pais, which essentially is a biotype of Listan Prieto from Tenerife. We have Muscatel of Alexandria, and then we have a hyper-local variety that's really only found in the Cinti Valley called Vischer-Kenya. And it's a variety we're still trying to learn how to deal with, because it doesn't look like anything else. Maybe it looks a bit like Lacrima de Cristi de Moro, but it's a challenging one for us to work with. And then this year we discovered another variety called Impereña, which like Vischer-Kenya, it's a crossing between Muscatel of Alexandria and Negra Criolla. I'm going blank there, but it happens to be white, whereas Vischer-Kenya is red. But yeah, I mean, I saw a vine in the San Roque vineyard 3 years ago, which was absolutely fascinating. It was white. The leaves looked different from anything else. The berries were incredibly tannic, and I've never been able to find it again. So, I mean, this is something that we are actively going to be trying to do from now on, especially now we have acquired essentially the management of San Roque ourselves. We have more control over it, so we can spend more time on it and invest more of our time on it as well. And over the next couple of years, we really do want to identify and map each and every vine to know what we've got, or maybe identify those we just don't know. And then in the future, we'll be able to analyze the unknown vines. What else is there?
Could I come in with a couple of questions, if that's okay? So Aldearo has said this is basically Indiana Jones viticulture, no? And something I wanted to ask you is, do you know how this viticulture came about, and was it basically a development of the observation of what, you know, silvestris, what wild vines naturally do, because that's what they naturally do, isn't it? They basically hook themselves onto a tree and take a ride on the tree to the top of the forest canopy. That's their nature. Do you know how this viticulture came about, and for how long the practice has been going on, either, you know, in your area or in, you know, other parts of the country?
So arboreal viticulture is an Etruscan viticulture. So it's over 3,000 years old. How it came about to Bolivia, it came with the missionaries during the colonies. And I guess they didn't have wires back then. And that was, I guess they decided it was good to continue with that tradition. Later on, viticulture developed everywhere else in the world, and this place remained as a Galapagos island. Back to what we were talking before, and so it remained like that. A lot of people have tried to change the way that people grow vines in the valley, and it has happened. Actually, one of the main persons that changed this the way of viticulture in the Cinti Valley was my great grandfather, when he arrived from Europe and decided to change everything. And it makes a lot of sense when you to do this, because right now we cannot mechanize anything. We cannot have tractors. Everything needs to be done with stairs. So it's very complicated and hard and expensive to manage. I don't know, Nayan, if you want to add anything to this. Well,
Sorry,
there you go.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, I kind of I have a theory that because of the location, at least for the vines in the Cinti Valley, we're in the bottom of a river valley that floods on a regular basis. I mean, in 2022, we had water. Well, we had the river coming through the vineyards of the valley to a depth of 2 meters in places, and with that, a lot of flotsam or jetsam, depending which way you look at it. But yeah, a lot of heavy logs and branches and other loads coming through. So I think there was kind of a logic that having vines planted up against trees actually offered them more protection in these kind of situations. But that's just a theory. One thing that we have noticed, because we actively seek out other vineyards just for extending our own knowledge, and we drove another valley that just comes off the Cinti Valley last year, and observed that there are actually people who are actively planting in this arboreal method down there. So there are young vine plantings in this incredibly traditional method, which is absolutely fascinating. So it's definitely something we're going to be investigating further when we have time.
I was going to ask you that. Is this simply sort of almost a piece of almost antique heritage that you're preserving for you know, as an almost cultural relic, which is absolutely still very, you know, that's a good enough reason on its own? Or is it still a method that must be offering some kind of benefits to today's growers? And you say that you see young vineyards being planted in this way, which would suggest that yes, it does. It has something of benefit. And can we learn from that?
Well, I mean, yes, we can learn from it, but obviously we need to do much more investigation from it. What we have noticed, just purely from observation, is that having the trees in the vineyards supporting the vines offers greater frost protection, which is a big problem in the high Andes. Offers greater hail protection as well, because you have a second layer of canopy protecting the canopy and the fruits of the vine. We can pull something like 80 kilos per vine off one of these ancient vines. So as a footprint goes, it is much more productive than a normal trellis. And then there's also the theory that especially with the moye has a particular kind of aroma. It's derived from terpenes, and possibly the terpenes are beneficial in pest and disease control. But again, we're not sure. And then who knows what the sort of the mycorrhizal sort of complexities are going through the vineyard. I mean, again, this is all stuff that we'll be spending years investigating. It's fascinating. This is never ending. This is wonderful.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you to Maria, Jose, for initiating this project. You know, I mean, it sounds completely crazy. And I remember when Nayan, when you first sent me the photo, telling me what, you know, about this project a couple of years ago, I was completely compelled by it. And it I think the first hook, honestly, for me was sort of Mr. Romantic hook, as Elder says. It's the, you know, it's the Indiana Jones, these new frontiers. But it's so wonderful then to hear that actually there is value and applied learning from this. And I think it just shows that how important it is to cultivate diversity, not just biodiversity of cultivars, but also diversity of farming practices, which are part of the cultural signature of different places and different countries. So, you know, we're so delighted also. I know it's been incredibly successful. I saw there was a question asking you which markets the wines were sold in. And I mean, it sounds like a peak hipster proposition, doesn't it? You know, like niche Bolivian varieties, you know, grown up trees, you know, but I've tasted the wines, and I would say I hope that everybody gets a chance to taste the wines. They're so vibrant, they're so distinctive, they hold intensity, but with this vitality and a kind of paciness, which is really compelling. So I just want to really thank you for doing what you do, for coming to talk to us about it. And we look forward to following you on your journey. And of course, if we can help with any connections or, you know, anything like that, please let us know, and please keep us informed of what you're up to. We'd love to keep sharing your amazing work. So thank you, and a pleasure to finally also meet you, Maria Jose. So I don't mean that Nayan's been keeping you in a cupboard or something, but no.
Likewise, Sarah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.